Welcome to our video on making the case for more resources. In my work, I frequently do public speaking, and as a joke, I usually ask the audience, how many of you have every resource you need? The usual response is muffled laughter. Needless to say, no one's ever raised their hand. Making the case for resources is one of the most crucial jobs that a CCO can have. Doing it effectively can mean getting what you want and what you need in order to have the program that will flourish within the company. But it can be very, very difficult. Falling budgets in the pandemic and post-pandemic world can create real challenges. We have industries that are transforming rapidly and that have difficult sales environments or market constriction. We have across-the-board freezes in some companies, pay cuts, or requirements to let a certain number of people go. And in many ways, there can be less of a focus on compliance. Whether we've got shiny object syndrome or we are expanding our roles to include ESG-focused initiatives or other new regulatory laws, what we're seeing is sometimes just less of a focus on compliance and less of a sense of, oh, we need to invest in this right now. We need to be focused on how to get those resources back or get them in the first place. I'm Christy Grant-Hart. I am a former Chief Compliance Officer as well as a former Director of Compliance for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. I spent the last 8 years in London, and I currently live in Los Angeles. I'm the CEO at Spark Compliance Consulting, where we work with clients all over the world. Every Chief Compliance Officer I know is looking for the resources in order to do their jobs effectively. So let's talk about some solutions to this resource challenge. One of the best ways to get resources is to calculate the penalties in dollars and cents, then juxtapose that penalty potential with the cost of the solution you want. For example, let's look at the European General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. As you may know, an egregious GDPR violation can cost the company up to 4% of its global annual turnover. It is much more powerful to say that if the company gets this wrong, it can cost up to 1.7 million instead of 4% of global turnover. So let's say you want to have a $50,000 GDPR audit. If you say that the penalties can be up to 1.7 million for our company if we get it wrong, and all I need is $50,000 to protect us with an audit, then in context, 50,000 feels like a much smaller number than 1.7 million. Instead of talking about fines as being potentially in the billions or using really, really scary numbers, use the real numbers that are possible for your company. When you do that, the solution can seem much less expensive and you're more likely to get a yes. Another technique is to simply use normal, everyday language. The fact of the matter is, you are a subject matter expert. Subject matter experts tend to use acronyms without even thinking. Listen to all the acronyms that we use in our industry, whether it's ABC, ABAC, OFAC, FCPA, GDPR, UKBA, SDN, the list goes on and on. We're even adding new acronyms with ESG and DEI, right? I bet you know the meaning of all or nearly all of the acronyms I just used. But guess what? Other people do not. Your business people frequently don't. And the problem with using acronyms is when you do, people do one of two things. Either they completely tune out and decide whatever you're saying isn't important or doesn't apply to them. Or they pretend to understand you, but don't. When people don't understand the acronyms you're using, they frequently feel stupid. Because they feel stupid, they don't ask questions, and they don't really understand what you're trying to say. These outcomes are not good for you. So don't assume that the person knows what you're talking about. Don't assume they understand. Make sure you use whole words and explain the entire idea. They'll tell you if they already know. Another technique is to use pictures instead of words. Lots of words on paper or slides creates apathy and is a huge turnoff. Use pictures and graphics to bring your requests to life. Graphics without text can be an invitation to start a conversation. People who see graphics may be curious about what you are showing them. Can you explain the picture? Pictures without words create instant engagement. They create curiosity. You want curiosity. Curiosity is your friend. Don't rely on words, rely on pictures, and then rely on stories. Next, Practice the ask. If you're going into an important conversation, practice asking out loud. I remember when I was negotiating salaries and negotiating job offers, I was so nervous. I didn't want to do it, but I also knew I should do it, so I did. I practiced. I practiced negotiating out loud with my friend. Practicing asking for more resources out loud and listening to objections can really help. When you're going to ask for, say, a new software solution or some sort of training company to come in and do some bespoke training, ask a family member or friend to listen to you. Ask for what you need and encourage them to give objections. You want to hear the objections so you can practice responding to them. Practice gives you the chance to work out the solutions to hard questions. That way, in the moment, you are able to answer them more easily. Next, this may be my favorite technique. It's called the choice of yes pattern. Once you know what it is, you'll see it everywhere. The choice of yes pattern allows you to position your request as a selection of answers from which the decision maker chooses. Make sure that none of those answers are no. Why does this work? Well, from the time that we learn to speak, we are taught to answer the questions we're asked. We answer what our parents ask. We answer what our teachers ask. We are not taught to think about whether a question is being asked in a way that we should avoid answering it or change the options given to us by the asker. What happens in a choice of yes pattern is that we offer solutions that we want and nothing else. Let's say you're going after a software solution. Instead of going to your boss and saying, "Hey, I want to get this new third-party due diligence solution. It costs $75,000 a year, yes or no?" Instead, you want to go in and say, "We need this third-party due diligence solution. The basic one is $50,000. With the functionality that I need, it's $75,000. And if we get everything, including the specialty reports I showed you yesterday, it's going to be $95,000. Which would you prefer?" Note that none of the choices were, "No, I don't want to buy the solution." After all, you asked if your boss would prefer the $50,000, $75,000, or $95,000 solution. If they want to override their natural instinct to answer the question asked, they have to get back to you with, "Oh, wait, hold on. No, I don't want that at all." If you really want to take this technique to the next level, try this. Study after study has proven that people tend to choose the middle answer of whatever they're being offered. This phenomenon has a name, the center stage effect. Let's say you really want the $75,000 software solution. Poise your question in a choice of yes pattern. Tell your boss that the choice is between the $50,000, $75,000, and $95,000 options. If you really want the 95 solution, tell them it's 75, 95, or 150. You are more likely to get the answer in the middle than any other answer offered. These are all great ways to get what you want. Do you need to use all of them all of the time? Absolutely not. But by invoking one or two of these techniques, you are so much more likely to get the resources you need. And when you do, you'll be much more effective.